Hey, friends, welcome back to the Sex Ed for Saints podcast. Listen, today's episode is part two of our conversation on what we have been calling It Destroys More Than You Think. And, friend, you do not want to jump in right here without hearing part one. So, if you missed last week's episode, pause right here and go back and listen to that one first because these are built together, these conversations. So, today is about going even deeper into healing, freedom, and what it really takes to move forward. If you are a married believer trying to navigate this intimacy thing without shame, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because you are in the right place.
Oh man, I did that to her. And
Yeah.
I'll text her or call her and just say, I've just learned something and I need to let you know I'm sorry
Yeah.
about this. And she's given me grace to do that. You
Mhm.
know, she's come back, hey, you're forgiven. And I know, but I need this. I need to make amends with you. And when something comes up that I know I deliberately did against you, that
Mhm.
I need to do that. But she was hurting so bad. And we
Yeah.
were at marriage counseling and I saw the tears in her eyes and she goes, I don't want to be a single mom.
Yeah.
I want my husband.
Yeah.
And it went into my heart, but it didn't go deep enough.
Welcome to the space where we tell our truth. Testimony, healing, breaking shame loose. Learning our bodies and walking by faith. Intimacy, God's way, right here is the place. Sex ed for saints. Mondays at 6. We believe in the power of the story. Not just pain, but redemption and glory. Faith in the rhythm, hearts in the mix. Trust in educators. Mondays at 6. We're overcoming by the word of these testimonies. People getting free when we speak what's holy. Healing in our hearts, shame starts to split. Every story told, another chain gets stripped. Learning our bodies, learning His way. Intimacy and faith, walking day by day. This is where we heal, where the truth sticks. Sex ed for saints, Mondays at 6.
I was hurting myself.
Yeah.
All of my pain was coming back to the surface of my life about how I felt about myself as an individual, and I hated
Mhm.
myself.
Yeah.
Not to mention the shame I heaped on myself as a part of what I've just been doing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And this is the prime example of why it's so important to heal before you get married.
Yeah.
Because if you do the work to get healing, then it avoids situations like this because
Mhm.
you got married as a broken person, not dealing with the addictions that you had,
Right.
because you weren't honest and upfront with yourself about the addictions that you had. And
Exactly.
so, you bring this person in who is somebody who is like riding hard for God, and she has all these dreams and visions and plans of what her future is going to look like, and now she's in a situation where she's feeling betrayed. Your children young, which probably means that she was going through postpartum or something like
Yeah.
that, and so
Yeah.
she's in overload with the emotions and things like that, and having to deal with that, and
Right.
and finally having to come to terms that with the fact that this situation, it's not really repairable,
Yeah. Yeah.
and scripture gives a way out. If one spouse's cheats, that's
Right.
grounds for you're released from that marriage if you want to. But it's one of those where when you get the healing, then you understand the covenant more, and it prevents you from all of this. But God still gives grace in the situation. You guys are going to hear how the story ended. And it's pretty, it shows the restoration of God. So yeah, so let's get back into it.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, because after she finds out and she gives you the okay, you get married, but as you mentioned, like you still had some struggles within that marriage,
Mhm.
right? Like the issues didn't go away. So let's talk about that because you do marry, ultimately you get divorced, you go back, you try to work on it, and
Right.
then it doesn't work, and so you go back to you know your wife, your current wife now, and you try to work it out, but it's not better. And
Right.
so I want people to see that it does not come without going through some more healing that needs to be done. So
Big
let's talk about that process and that transition.
Sure. Well, like I said, I'd gotten divorced in 2004, married my now wife in 2005. So we've been married 20 years as of now. And um, I had, my encounter with the Lord at 2011, and I was 46 years of age at that time. And thankfully, young enough to get my head back on gear or back on straight or whatever you want to say about that. Um, but uh, but it was such a weird time for me going, I feel free, but why am I still feeling this stuff inside? Right?
Mhm.
Why am I still, when I drop a pencil, cursing myself out, you know, to all hours of the night, and literally just staying stuck in a place where I was putting myself down. Um, a few years after I'd broken free, and my wife saw that I was getting into, helping men with this addiction, and she knew that I hated it and didn't want it to be part of my life or anything like that. She still didn't know that I had had the addiction for 6 years of our marriage.
Mm.
And so a few years after that, when I'm starting to really delve into this and go into those conferences and getting lots of downloads of information about this, we're driving along the road one day. This is when we're still up in Pennsylvania, where we live in Florida now. But we're up in Pennsylvania driving down the highway, and I can tell you exactly where it was. And she looked at me, and we were having a conversation about this and about, how I was building this group of guys that were struggling, and we were meeting every once in a while. And she goes, I have a question. I'm like, uh-oh. Were you actively watching porn when we were married? An answer to a question I wanted to take to my grave, right?
Mhm.
Because I didn't want her to know about it. Why didn't I want her to know about it? Well, it's because, um, one, I treated her like a porn star in our sexual engagement together.
Yeah.
Um, and then she felt the dirt. She didn't know what to say about it, but she felt the dirt. And by that time that I had been free for a few years, I wasn't I wasn't really worried about it. I was going to be truthful with her, and I told her yes. And she goes, "Oh, unbeknownst to me, that started her on an almost 10-year retro betrayal."
Mm.
I mean, 10 years. That's a long time.
Mhm.
But because of how she felt about herself and being the other woman,
Mhm.
how she felt about herself even before God, feeling so broken before God that she had let him down. And then realizing that for a portion of our marriage, I was treating her like she was a female porn star,
Yeah.
and needing her to treat our sexual engagement like a female porn star would treat that.
Mhm.
And so she had so much dirt to crawl through, right? Like being in war and you're crawling, on the dirt like she had so
Yeah.
much of that in her soul, and she felt like she couldn't face God with it, and she felt like she couldn't face friends with it, and so she was carrying all this weight, not only my past betrayal, but just the weight of her own brokenness out of what has happened in her own individual life. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't know this kind of stuff out there happened that brought healing. But what God did, and I think that He probably chose this method for it to be really deep in me, is that I didn't learn what I learned about the industry and all that kind of stuff was one thing. But what God took me through, He would put me in situations
Mhm.
where I had to go back to those moments of pain in my life.
Mm.
And I would be like, why am I feeling this? Like,
Mhm.
what's going on? Now, I had a clearer head because when you get out of any addiction, this part of the frontal part of your brain, we call it the prefrontal cortex, actually is what needs to be running the brain in general. This is how God set it up. This part runs the rest of the brain. This part holds the reins, right? But the reason people get into addiction is because the limbic area of their brain, kind of the middle area of the brain, that's where the emotions are, the reward center, the feelings are.
Mhm.
And so when we are feeling unloved or unaccepted or unaffirmed, we're moving from that limbic section of our brain, and we're feeling it so deep, and we have to find healing for that. Like, I'm unloved, I don't want to be unloved, what should I do to feel loved? And then in my world, it was sexuality. You turn to sex with women,
Yeah,
or you watch pornography and get away from it.
for
And
sure.
so God took me through these moments in my relationship with Him, because I had a clearer head, because I wasn't acting out anymore, um, and I was able to go, oh, I get it. Okay, I get it. I get it. I the reason this came my way and the reason I ran with it as I did is because I'm still hurting with something. And so God, by the power of the Holy Spirit in me, brought me to more and more light about this. When I
Yeah.
when I was sick, I'll say this: when I was sick with COVID, I thought I was going to die, and I was real worried about it. And so after I'd recovered from that, thank God, um, I went to a cardiologist, and I said, "Hey, I just want to make sure because I know this is a heart problem as well. I know COVID is a heart issue because it's a vascular sickness." And I was having some issues, and I just wanted to make sure my heart was okay. So I went to a cardiologist. He put me on one of those things you wear around your chest, like a monitor.
Mm-hmm.
One, and I'll make a real quick story of this. One morning, I'd already been in the work I'd been doing, counseling people, working with special conferences and things like that. And I got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and when I reached over to flush the toilet, that monitor fell out into the water. And I had already signed a document that says I would pay $1,400 if something like that happened.
Wow.
I'm livid. I'm almost at the point of tears, and eventually I get to the point of tears. And I sit here just like Job, like, are you serious? Are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
I tithe. I tithe, right? I'm throwing my self-righteousness up to God. I tithe. I'm working with men, trying to help them save their marriages and get themselves off of this sexual addiction. I'm working so hard for you, and you're going to let this happen? Are you serious?
Yeah.
It's almost like I reached up to the clouds and grabbed him by, right here at the neck, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
this ain't cool, man. Like, I don't know where I'm going to come up with this money and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, my wife had woken up because I was pacing the floor. And the next morning came, I was in tears. I went to bed in tears. I was just so upset. And I woke up the next morning and I was getting a little bit of my little parfait that I make in the morning. I was getting that together. And I heard the Lord say, the two aren't related.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, what do you mean by that? And he goes, I love that you tithe and you trust me with your finances. I love that you work with me and you serve me in this way. And I love that you're helping these men find release. But it has nothing to do with what happened on the commode last night.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want you to know that, like, I can take care of that, right? I am for you. I love that you're doing all this kind of stuff, but you getting so upset about that and you throwing your self-righteousness up to me, that's why it happened. I
Mm-hmm.
needed to clear you of some of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that was my healing. I,
Yeah.
I'm not against counseling and therapy by any stretch of the imagination, and I've had people speak into my life strongly.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the main journey of my healing, was God putting me in these things, ripping out my past, and
Yeah.
me going, wow, that hurts bad.
Yeah.
And then going, okay, I see what you're doing here. I see
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing here.
Yeah.
And so then it went on to our, the whole relationship between my ex-wife and her husband and all that kind of stuff was
Yeah.
birthed out of that time.
I'm so excited to finally share this book with you. Hey God, Can I is available now. Find the link in my bio to get your copy.
Your current wife and your ex-wife are now friends. So
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about how that even happened.
Sure. Because I call myself a ranger and not a special forces, I just I'm like a bull in a china shop, right? And so one day my wife had come home. She still works for him down here remotely, but up in Pennsylvania, her boss was real busy, like real busy, and just doing stuff. And she would come home after working a really hard day of just trying to keep herself focused and all that. And she would just be like, oh, I can't do it. Oh, I'm just so overwhelmed. And one day she goes, could you just rub my neck? And I'm knots all over her neck, and just from the stress of things. And so I said, you know what? If we call Sharon, my ex-wife, I mean, she's, as far as I'm concerned, she's the best in the land. and she's an amazing massage therapist. And her father was a chiropractor. So, I mean, I kind of had the best of both worlds. Like I gave up massages and I gave up free chiropractic, you know.
Right.
But I said, why don't I call her, because she can do this deep work that I can't do, and she knows really how to do it really well. And she's like, you know. And I said, no, it'll be cool, you know, like a guy, right? No, it'll be fine. The women are going, what? You're going to call
Yeah.
your ex-wife to
I'm
massage
going
your now wife?
like
What are you, a
seriously?
moron? Right. You know? So, but I did, and I called her and I said, hey, listen, I said, I know this is probably weird, but Wendy is my wife now. Wendy has some serious knots in her neck, and they feel permanent to me, like they're never going to go away. And I said, would you be interested in maybe massaging her a couple of times just to help her with that? And she was on the other end, and she's, you know, my ex-wife is pure as driven snow. I mean, she could easily play Snow White, you know, because she's just a godly woman, loves God with all her heart and has her whole life. And I said, well, you know, think about it. She's like, well, I definitely will consider it and pray about it. And I'm like, what do you got to pray about it for? I mean, just you're a great massage person. So I'm putting two and two together like a guy would, and I'm not putting it together like a woman would. And eventually she sat down after that, my ex-wife, Sharon, she sat down and penned a letter to her, and released her of all the stuff that she had felt that she had done because of that phone call, right? It kind of brought things back up into the forefront.
Yeah.
And not that she didn't see it, because we had kids together, so we were always together.
Mhm.
And so she wrote that letter, and she felt really released to do it. So she called her and said, hey, I would love for you to come down. Let me treat you to a massage. And when she came in and, you know, got ready for it, my wife wrote a book about her journey to healing, but my
Mhm.
ex-wife also wrote a book about her journey to healing.
Mhm.
And that was the moment that kind of opens up my wife's book. Is there were the hands of the woman that I betrayed around my neck, you know. And, you know, just kind of a little teaser, a real quick teaser.
Mhm.
Um, but that's what it was like. And Sharon even herself was going, wow, I have my hands around your neck right now. Like
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
an opportunity.
I got an opportunity here, and oh my goodness, what happened? I didn't realize I crushed your neck. So, but they talked and shared some things together, and uh, she went back for another massage, and she felt that the air was getting freer
Yeah.
around the two of them as they were able to meet at that. Now, I
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily expecting that to happen. I just wanted there
Yeah.
to be some just congenial relationships that we could
Mhm.
have. But I didn't realize that God was going to do what he did.
Yeah.
And he really connected them in such a beautiful way
In such an
where,
intimate way.
well, yeah, well, it's a very intimate way, especially
Yeah.
that way. But,
Mhm.
and so now this wasn't giving calls and, hey, you want to go do coffee or something? But every once in a while that would happen.
Mhm.
And they would get together and go talk and just catch up and about how life was going for the both of them.
Yeah.
And my ex-wife had remarried. She remarried about 10 years ago. And so what had happened is, the long story short is that my ex-wife was kind of the glue between my oldest son, who was married out of wedlock. He wasn't a product of any of my two wives, but another person that I had met shortly after getting out of the military. Well, he really loved Sharon, my ex, as his stepmother. And when this all happened and I left Sharon, my oldest son emancipated from me. He wrote me an email and he says, I want nothing to do with you. I'm
Wow.
on in name only, but I don't ever want to see you again. And he was 14 when he wrote that to me.
Wow.
And it killed me. I mean,
Yeah.
it wrecked me. And that's when I was still in the throes of everything. And but Sharon said, you know, because we had two kids together and they were the half sister and half brother of my oldest son, she was like the glue, right? That really
Mhm.
kept their relationship together. And I said, you know what, if he hates me for the rest of his life, but he stays close with his brother and sister, that's fine, you know, because I
Yeah.
just want God to heal it. But if it doesn't ever happen, that's okay. But she really would, invite him over to things that they would do together and picnics they would do together. When my oldest son got married, Sharon would invite over him and his wife, and they would do stuff together. And then a couple years ago, we found out that they were pregnant and they were going to have a baby, and I was going to have my first granddaughter. That was another moment in time when God had to heal me, because as much as I wanted to rejoice in that, I knew how I had treated him so badly, even in my addictive years.
Yeah.
And being so busy at the church, and I never could get time to see him. And it just became this gradual thing where I just lost him. And he just went off and did his own thing with his mom and his stepdad over there. But I'm so thankful to Sharon that she became the glue that kept calling. And then eventually we started going, why don't we just do Christmases together? Right. And so
Yeah.
after the Christmas Eve service that we would have, we would all gather at Sharon's house, and we would do Christmas together. And then eventually, Sharon and her husband would buy myself and my wife presents, and then we would buy them presents, and thoughtful presents. It
Yeah.
wasn't just like, oh, we feel like we should do something. We actually put thought behind why we wanted to give them a present. And so God was really linking and unifying our hearts in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that we've always wanted to do is like take that on the road, right? And just sit up there, because we have the sex addict, we have the betrayed spouse, we have the other woman, and then, and he hates it when I do this, but my ex-wife's husband, Tim is his name.
Mhm.
He, I call him Superman, right?
Yeah.
Because he kind of flew in,
And rescue.
rescued Sharon,
Yeah.
from the evil Lex Luthor, and that type of
Mhm.
thing. But he goes, that's not me, guys. That's not me. I said, I know, but he bit off a lot more than he thought he could chew when he
Yeah. Yeah.
got married, because he became an instant dad, to my two kids. And I prayed and I prayed and I prayed for years that my ex would find somebody. And when she married Tim, who was a mutual friend of ours, who I love dearly, he was a worship leader at a sister church of ours, and we would get together and pray for worship and all that kind of stuff. She married him. They had liked each other in high school. And now here they are, like almost 40 years later, or 35, 40 years later, getting married. And he never married. He was 49 going on 50 when he got married. He'd never been married before. And he had always liked Sharon in high school, but never could get around to asking her out or doing anything like that. So here we are, switched to almost, well, I guess it would be 30 years later, he's getting married to her. And now he's almost 60. Next month, he'll be 60. I just turned 60 last year. And over the last, I would say probably 7 to 10 years, we have been doing these things together, having picnics together with the whole family, with my oldest son, me trying to work on that relationship with my oldest son, because Sharon has created an environment for that to happen.
Yeah.
And my son just this Christmas said, hey, we'd like to come down and see you guys when we go down to a place we're going in Florida. We'd like to stay at your place for a few days.
Yeah.
I can't even tell you what good that did to my heart, because
Yeah.
he didn't have to do it. He could just go down, do his thing, and go home.
Hmm.
But he wanted to spend time with us and have us spend time with my little grandbaby, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
She's 2.5 years old. She rules the roost, but she's the cutest thing on the planet.
Yeah.
So God has healed so many hearts. I have so many stories I could tell you,
Yeah.
maybe on another time.
I wanted people to be able to see the restoration before we got into that, because this could have been a very messy situation, and it started with an addiction.
Mhm.
It all started because of an addiction, and you see the lives that were impacted because of it. You see what it has done, what it has caused, the hurt it has caused, the betrayal.
Hey friends, quick pause in this lesson because I need to put you onto something that has been blessing so many households. This episode has been sponsored by Covenant Eyes, the accountability app that helps you protect your eyes, your mind, and your marriage. If you're serious about keeping your digital life pure,
guarded, and God honoring. Covenant Eyes is a game changer. It helps you to stay accountable online and creates a safe space for your heart and your home. And listen, because you are a part of the Marriage Lab, you get 30 days free when you use my code Marriage Lab. So go ahead, take that step, cover your devices, and cover your covenant.
It's such a powerful story about, you know, the cause and effects of the damage that can be done as because of addiction. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to talk a little bit about, you know, your work and what it is that you do, because we already understand, we have a clear understanding of why you got into it. And we saw through you that addiction lives very silent. First of all, why do you think it's so silent?
Well, you can't see like the red eyes from drinking or the track marks in the arm from heroin, right? And usually we will tend to do it when nobody's around. And whatever it is that we do, we have it all done and cleaned up before anybody sees it. And it's only, like you said, about that person that had written in. It's usually those type of moments. Or sometimes, men will visit prostitutes and they'll be worried that they might have a disease, or something along those lines. And then they have to tell their wife, hey, I need to let you know this happened. Right. So what I do, as far as the counseling goes, I do individual work with men who have hit those D-Day moments in their life. Everything's falling apart all around them. The wife said, you better get counseling, I'm leaving. And I get a lot of those guys. Now, we don't want people to go to get counseling or do the work that we do just because their wife tells them to, right?
Yeah.
We want them to understand you need to want this for yourself. You need to want to be healed and want to be free.
Yeah.
But when they come, usually what it is, they'll go, why do we have to go back so far in my life? Well, there's some pain down there that needs to be healed. And listen, God can do it, lickety split, right? If he wanted to. But why do all these people not get that kind of healing, even if they're praying, God, please take this away from me? Now, I believe that's an improper prayer. And the reason I think that is because God already did take it away from us. We have to recognize our relationship with God opens the door for that healing. And it opens up the door for us to take rightful authority as who God wants us to be, as people who move in Christ's authority, and they take authority over that aspect of their life. Now, God is there to help them along the way. That's a given. But I'll ask people a lot of times, how many times have you said, God, please take this away from me? And hands go all over the place. And I'll say, and how many are still active in it? Hands go up all over the place. And the reason is one, we need each other, right? We can't just go and say, God, I'm sorry about this, because we keep it silent, right? This is why he says, confess your sins one to another so that you may be healed, right? Not forgiven, healed. We confess to God in order to be forgiven. We confess to our brothers and our sisters about our issues when we need to be healed, because we don't heal in a vacuum. And the more that our story comes out under the light of God, the less power the enemy has to keep us in it.
Right.
But it's the scariest thing that men will ever go through in their life, barring any kind of, terminal sickness or something. The one thing that a man does ever want to do is, do I have to tell my wife I did this? Yes, you have to tell her you did this.
Yeah.
Because that's what marriage is about, right? Well, can I just take it to my grave and I promise I'll never do it again? No.
Yeah.
Because there's something that's going to be messing up with you in that. You're going to be keeping yourself from her. So every time you try to engage in intimacy with her in any level, you're going to still hold some of yourself back.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy either. And so it seems counterproductive or counterintuitive to do that, because the woman's going to be like, oh my gosh, what do I do with it now? I'm going to go stay at mom's, right? And then the man, see, I told you I shouldn't have told her. Well, no, that you let God be responsible for that marriage. And you do your work and she'll do her work. And if you both can stay in your lanes and just leave the future of the marriage up to God, then his answer is the one you're going to go on. It's nobody
Yeah.
else make that decision. You stay focused on God.
Yeah.
So the work I do is I go back into their past and I help them uncover some of the emotional pain, emotional trauma that they have in their past. And then what I want to do is, as we're doing that, we're continually keeping things in line with how Christ would like to heal us in those moments. And how Christ wants to heal us in those moments is he wants to integrate us back into ourselves again from
Yeah.
that younger child. You've heard maybe of internal family systems or our inner child. That child that went through all that wounding needs to be integrated back into who you are.
Mhm.
And if he can integrate back into who you are, then he gets to grow up and become you.
Mhm.
So now, like I tell men, now you're like not just 68% the shell of a man. If that integration can happen from that one moment in time, maybe you'll be 73% of a man. Let's do the deeper work and see what's dictating this behavior in your life so that we can uncover it, so that your brain isn't always telling you, uh-oh, I'm getting triggered by something. I'm feeling like we're in emotional danger. Well, we know what we do then. We run to the bathroom or whatever, right? We don't want that to happen. And so the more that we can allow Christ to get into, the more real estate the Spirit of God has within ourselves to take over, and we get rid of that stuff and we turn it over to the Father, the less of the pull that's going to happen on the brain, right? Because it doesn't have anything, eventually, it won't have anything to pull on because you've already told your brain, listen, I cope with life's problems
Yeah.
a different way now. I'm
Mhm.
not coping using pornography or sexuality in any form. I'm deciding to go over here and to live the life as a prince or a princess in the kingdom of God.
Mhm.
And so that's what I try and take people through. We do marriage intensives. If
Mhm.
anybody is interested in marriage intensives, we have one coming up in April 2026. I don't know if this will air before then.
Mhm.
But we have one coming up in Titusville, Florida. It's open for anybody across the United States, or anybody that hears this. It's open for them to come. But we'll be doing a mix of couples work, but also individual work. And
Mhm.
the individual work that we do with the women is going back to those backstories, not just the current failures of their husband.
Mhm.
We go back to the other places where that trauma has gone into their soul and found like trauma.
Mhm.
That's what it does. And then it causes them to be triggered so much more blatantly, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So the low hanging fruit of the husband's betrayal just goes in and finds the family of origin
Mhm.
discomfort or pain and all that kind of stuff, like we talked about before. We don't want to just deal with this surface issue
Yeah.
because while this other stuff is going on, it's going to cause major problems. And we do that with the men and we do it with the women separately. We also have a lady that comes and she does breath work and somatic work,
Mhm.
people to really start integrating themselves, as an individual.
Mhm.
And it's an amazing experience. And so I also do intensives for men working with an organization called Be Broken.
Mhm.
And I lead the men's intensives that we hold down either here in Florida or up in Georgia. And so I'll lead the general sessions and do a lot of the teaching, and then the breakout counselors, which is one of those things that I used to be with the ministry. Now I'm actually leading the intensives, but two breakout counselors will be available, and we'll split the men in half, and they'll go there and they'll do the deep work and the deep dives and have to get in touch with some of that pain of the past. It
Mhm.
just it just doesn't. I see a lot of people online saying, "Hey, if you just do this and do this and do this, you'll be fine." And I'm like, "Yeah." And we've had people come from those places and say, "Why can't I get rid of it?" This isn't just one of those things overnight. I think God wants to heal us in this fashion,
Yeah.
so that it becomes very purposeful, right?
Mhm.
The healing becomes purposeful in our life. We begin to feel the weakness and the brokenness that we feel and the
Mhm.
pain that we feel because God wanted you to sit in that pain for a while He healed you from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need to continue to allow God into those deep, dark places. And it works a lot better when it's mediated by somebody. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody could try and do it
absolutely.
on their own, but you're probably going to get lost.
Absolutely. And
So
it takes so much courage and vulnerability for someone to, be able to confess that.
mhm,
But when you are able to do that, that shows that I want to do the work. And
exactly.
so that's why it's so important, because you have to show not just yourself, but those around you that
Right.
you are ready to do the work. And that's where the healing begins,
Yeah.
in the confession. And so
Yeah.
I think that what you're doing is so very important. I know that, you like your first encounter with pornography and anything like that was at 11.
Mhm.
And, it's by the years, as the years go by, it's getting younger and younger. I
It
think
is.
now
It is.
by the time a child is 8 years old, they're already exposed.
Mhm.
So do you do anything that deals with children as well, or only adults?
No, but I know people that do things with children.
Okay.
Kristen Jensen, and I think it's Protect Your Children.
Hmm.
Um, I'm thinking that's what it is, but I can let you know. But
Hmm.
Kristen Jensen wrote books called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures,
Hmm.
and it's an excellent book. She wrote it initially for children somewhere around 5, 6, 7,
Hmm.
8, somewhere around there because they know that they're seeing this stuff earlier.
Hmm.
She actually wrote one for ages 3 to 5,
Hmm.
Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and it lets kids know, hey, if you see something like this on a phone or you see something like this on a computer, you need to know that that's not good. And you
Hmm.
need to tell mommy and daddy about it, or you need to tell somebody about it that showed you this picture because kids are coming to
Hmm.
school with their cell phones,
Hmm.
and they're finding all this stuff on their cell phones and all their devices now, and it's free.
Hmm.
So yeah, it is necessary. Defend young minds. That's
Okay.
what it is. Defend young minds.
Hmm.
Um, so for anybody looking for help for their younger children, Defend Young Minds, Kristen Jensen, um, with her Good Pictures, Bad Pictures books. And the neat thing about those books is there's places for you to go through that with your younger children and actually write in, some things. It's not a workbook, but there's some
Yeah.
places that you can ask questions. Have you seen this? What have you seen? And
Hmm.
write terminology to things instead of using coarse terminology to describe the body. Being able to let a young child know that if they see something like that, that they didn't do anything wrong, right? But that they can go tell mommy or daddy that they saw something like that at school. And they can say, well, I saw this and use the proper terminology for it. And then that way we can kind of cut the shame down, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to be starting to do some things a little bit later this year in the middle of 2026 that is going to be actually bringing older high school students.
Mm.
I'm going to be doing middle school, or if I'm going to start with high school, I'll probably start with high school first because they're a little bit farther along in their porn use. Um, but want to bring them in and teach them things like identity, purpose, authority, that type of stuff about who they truly are in Christ. I'm calling it Princes in Training, PIT,
Mm.
Princes in
Yeah.
Training. And God showed me this picture a long time ago when He took me into a room that this is what I saw in my head. It was a room full of thrones, and there was hardly anybody on it. There was a few people on their thrones, but all of these empty thrones that had a little sword hanging by the side of the throne and had the crown hanging around the little spire at the top of the crown. I was like, what is this? And He goes, those are the people who have traded in their spiritual authority for sexual arousal.
Mm.
And so I really felt God at that time appointed me um, to be someone who calls these people back to their spiritual authority and gets them reseated in the heavenlies with Christ, right? Like it's
Mhm.
Ephesians, and get them to a place where they are men of integrity, men of honor. There's a lot of groups out there that do that. I'm just going to do it in my way. I'm going to be a little cog in a big wheel, but that's okay because we need a bunch of those out there because it is massive. It's an epidemic like you've never seen, and it's
Yeah.
global.
Yeah.
I always call this the epidemic that, or the pandemic that COVID wishes it could be, right?
Mhm.
Because it is a global phenomenon. There's
Yeah.
so many people addicted to it, and I could give you stories day and night about it. But But if we cut the demand of porn,
Hmm.
we can start cutting the demand of sex trafficking.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
1000%.
all, it's all it's all connected. In
Yeah.
most cases.
I always hear people say that there is there's ethical
Oh,
porn. I'm like, how can porn be ethical? But I want you to explain that a little bit, because this also gives the perception for people that it's okay to watch porn if I watch just the ethical ones. Talk about that
yeah.
real quick.
Yeah, ethical porn is just simply a misnomer. A lot of it, they tried. There's one main site out there called Pornhub that actually wanted to get into sex education for young children.
Wow.
So this was kind of the start of this concept of ethical porn, uh, and knowing that they were going to use that to be a device to pull them in. Oh, well, what else is on Pornhub, right? I mean, if you're going to go watch this and you're going to learn something ethical about how to engage sexually between partners,
Hmm.
what else are they going to do? What
Yeah.
else are they going to show? How much can we trust them? Well, you can't trust them at all, because they just got uh, taken to the bank for all the child pornography that was on their
Hmm.
site, that was uploaded, that they didn't even know was on there.
Hmm.
Because it's free for all. Yeah, you can upload whatever you want. And
Hmm.
all this child porn was ending up on there.
Yeah.
So they were trying to do that. The other thing is uh, there is husband and wife porn. And so as long as you know that those two people on the screen are married or think they're married, then it's ethical porn because, well,
Hmm.
certainly a husband and wife have sex with each other,
Yeah.
right? And it's that type of stuff, or and it could delve into the LGBTQ community and all that kind of stuff. Like, where are you going to stop saying that it's okay?
Hmm.
And that's what happens. And people think it's okay if I watch porn with my wife in bed.
Yeah.
And I usually will find that men who have asked their wives to allow them to watch porn in bed have a real problem with
Hmm.
their impotency
Yeah. It
because
desensitizes them.
yeah, it does. And they can, it's like pixels, not people, right?
Hmm.
And besides, they're responsible for their own sexual feeling and release when they're watching porn by themselves. And so please, if anybody hears this, please, women, stand your ground on this. Do not allow porn in the bedroom. It's only going to cheapen what you call your relationship with him. He needs to be healed so that he can be with you, body, mind, and spirit, and not want you to do the same thing I did with my now wife to make her to be the one. Hey, try this. Hey, do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like, why? And I'm like, well, it's just fun. Like, what's the problem with it? But the
Yeah.
truth was I needed it or else I couldn't perform.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, please just no, there's
Yeah.
there's no ethical porn.
No
uh,
such thing as ethical porn,
there's
people.
no there's no such thing as ethical porn. Like, drop
Yeah.
it like a hot potato, man.
And
It's
then let's just remember that it's $1 billion industry.
Yeah,
The
multi-billion
goal is
dollars.
to make
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. And 20, 30 years ago, you used to pay for this. They used to take your credit card and you put 39.95 down and you could have access to their site unlimited. But then they found a way to have different streams of income coming in and backing them up, whatever businesses and whatever ventures they got involved with. And now they have all this money coming in, and that's why it can be free.
Yeah.
So it's accessible. It's anonymity, like you don't have to know anything about you being on there, and it's affordable. So those three A's: affordable, anonymous, and accessible. That's what makes porn such a huge grab. You still have to pay for drugs. If
Yeah.
you want to go out and get your fentanyl, if you want to go out and get your heroin, you want to go out and get your crack, you're going to have to, ante up some dollars there. With porn, you don't have to do that.
Right.
So it's absolutely, this is a wave that we are so desperately trying to stop. So anybody out there, if we can help in any way, shape, or form, please, please, please know that you can go to thesilentaddiction.com. Make sure you have the word "the" in there, thesilentaddiction.com. And anything that we can answer for you, if wives want to get a hold of us and talk to us about things, husbands want to look out for help, and they need help and they want to come to an intensive, I'll lead you to that ministry as well from there. So you can just go to thesilentaddiction.com, and our marriage intensives are coming up this year. Anything in any way, shape, or form that we can help rescue husbands and rescue marriages and rescue young kids who are already on their journey to being sexually active at such a young age, we want to be there for you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We have been on this call for quite some time, but it was so good because the information was so beautiful, so restoring, refreshing. And I truly believe that it's going to help a lot of people understand the full picture of what something like pornography does. But I want to ask you real quick. Um, what is, for somebody who might not be quite ready, what is a small step that they could take to, um, a small step that they would be able to take while living in silence?
hmm Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things that you can do is have somebody to be accountable to, somebody that you allow to ask the hard questions. Not just somebody where you go to, oh man, I acted out again. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll be praying for you. That we don't want that. I mean, we do want prayer for them, but it's not just that, right? It's, hey, how often did you do this? Why do you feel you're doing this, right? How can I help you in this? That type of stuff. We have to have be somebody that they can be accountable to. That's really, really helpful. The other thing is uh, there are software out there that can help.
Hmm.
There's Covenant Eyes, which is an
Yes.
accountability software, but
Hmm.
still very good because if you assign somebody accountability, then they're
Hmm.
going to get screenshots, right?
Yeah,
Do
absolutely.
not make your wife your accountability partner. Please don't do that. If you have nobody else and your wife is really rooting for you and she's in the game fighting with you, great. Uh,
Hmm.
Fighting for you, I should say. Um,
Hmm.
then okay, for a limited time, have her be your accountability partner. But just know whenever she sees that, she's going to get triggered. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
but again, if you're really trying to work together with that, but but you have to come out to somebody with this
You have
problem,
to
or
come up with
it's going to
somebody.
stay quiet forever. So the
Absolutely.
more people that know it, the more people that can hold you accountable, and especially your wife knowing about it, and that
Hmm.
you have set some things in place is going to help bring her a little bit of ease.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are two things I think off the top that you can do. Now you could shut the things off and never do stuff again. But unfortunately, in our day and age, we use our phones and our computers and our
There's no such
laptops.
thing.
Yeah, there's no such thing as being totally void from that. But
Hmm.
but at the same time, if you can do something like for 90 days,
Hmm.
right? If you can go 90 days and somebody knows you're going 90 days for this reason and they're keeping you accountable and they're calling you and checking in with you and all that kind of stuff. If you can go 90 days without accessing that or you're physically acting out or watching the porn or engaging with an extramarital affair or something along those lines, and you can do it for 90 days, right around then your brain starts going, oh, it looks like we're not going to be using that stuff
Hmm.
hope anymore. And
Hmm.
you start making a pleasure list for yourself, a holy pleasure
Hmm.
list. What can I do instead of running to that? What can I do? Can I take a walk?
Yeah.
Can I go make a sandwich? We don't
Yeah.
be just making sandwiches to get over porn, but can I do something to deflect my attention? Because at least in these first 90 days, if I can train my brain to do something else when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed, and
Yeah.
whatever it is that's causing me to be triggered, that's a really, really good start for
Yeah.
someone to be able to train their brain. We learn a habit in 21 days, but we can break a habit after 90.
Yeah.
So that just lets you know how deep it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good tip because you are reprogramming your brain
Mhm.
from addiction. And so you're also showing yourself how deep that struggle is
Yeah.
based on can you even make it to that 90 days? And if you realize you can't make it to that 90, that means I'm in deeper than what it was that I thought.
Right. Right.
So that's a measurement that you can actually use to find out, hey,
Mhm.
I really have a problem here. I really need to get some help. And
Yeah.
just a plug for Covenant Eyes, they are sponsoring this episode right now. And so if you use the code the marriage lab on Covenant Eyes, then you will get 30 free days to test it out or whatever. So
Excellent.
definitely use the code marriage lab and go to the website Covenant Eyes, and all of the information that you mentioned, it will be in the link below as
Okay.
well.
Great.
And so the last thing I want to know is, there's somebody who is listening right now, and this conversation, it might feel uncomfortable for them because it's uncomfortably familiar. And
Yeah.
so what do you want them to know?
I want them to know that they're not too far gone, but I also want them to know that they need to call it what it is. This is an addiction. If you can't stop and you keep finding yourself back in that, even without your own permission, then most likely this is an addiction, and it has a hold on you in a much deeper place than what you realize. And so, but please know that you're not too far gone. The love of our Father in heaven, the love of his son Jesus, and the love of the Spirit are at your disposal, ready to set you free. And you can be completely transformed by the renewing of your mind, like it says in Romans 12:2. God can take you through this incredible journey. I never thought I could stop. I figured I was going to be that way forever. And I've heard so many people who are on the other side, whether they've healed their marriages or whether they've lost their marriages, they have been able to stop this activity as well because they turned everything over to God. And they said, I can't do it. I can't live my life like this anymore. And I can't keep responding to the pain of my past anymore by utilizing pornography or going out to prostitutes or extramarital affairs or whatever you want to call it. Um, you need to find your hope and your peace and your deliverance in Jesus Christ and what he accomplished on the cross. That's the only way you're going to break free. So don't pray, God, please take this away from me. On the cross, he already did. You just need to enter in to what he did on the cross.
Yeah.
Recognize, I don't have to live this way anymore. I don't have to do it anymore. And knowing that and taking the hand of your Savior is what's going to lead you out into the open pastures.
I love that. I love that. Because listen, that is so powerful. That is so powerful. Listen, Marie said so many valuable things that's able to help you. It's a process, and we see how much damage something like pornography can do. But
Mhm.
he's showing you that there's redemption on the side of it. I mean, think about how many people have lost their marriages because of something like pornography. It's an addiction, and if you don't get help, you risk your marriage, you risk your family, you risk those who are connected to you, how it impacts all of that. And so I hope that you take this conversation as an opportunity to finally get some help, because darkness can only grow where silence lives. And we want to make sure that you come out in the open, deal with the issues that you have, and remind yourself exactly what he said, right? Remind yourself that you are not alone. You are not broken beyond repair. You can get the help that you need. And so, Reese, I want you to, let everybody know again where they can reach you, all of your social media, everything else.
Mhm.
How can
Sure.
they reach you?
Sure. Yeah. My website is thesilentaddiction.com. You can reach me by email if you have any questions at just Reese Crane, ReeseCrane at gmail.com as well. And that's usually where I started because I have a contact information on my website, and so they can fill out whatever it is that they are concerned with. If men are calling to find help, or if women are calling to find help and they need something that's going to help them, get to a place where they can, come down and not be so hyper vigilant because of the trauma they're feeling from this, we can definitely help that and point them in the right direction.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for being my guest for today. I truly, truly know that this is such a valuable conversation. We've already talked about it, y'all. This is a $1 billion industry. There are so many people who are struggling with pornography, and we hope that this could be a window of opportunity to bring the message a little bit louder, a little bit more clearer, to know that there is help on the other side. So, thank you again for tuning in. If you have liked it, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, y'all, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Now, friends, if this conversation blessed you, do me a favor. Take a moment to like, leave a review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, because you already know we need more faith filled, real conversations like this in the world. And listen, I know you heard a gem today, something that made you pause, something that made you think, something that made you say, woo, this was for me. But friend, it might not be just for you. So go ahead and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Send it to a friend, a spouse, a sister in Christ, somebody who's been feeling stuck or silent in this area. Let's spread healing, freedom, and truth one conversation at a time. And until next time, we're going to get candid, but keep it God. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.